What's up, guys? Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast. My name is Caleb Davis, and today I have brought to you guys the first extension of my playoff preview series where I'm going to talk about the matchups, kind of X factors, my predictions game wise, and the path to victory for each team heading into this 2024-2025 NBA playoffs. I'm breaking it down team by team for each video. So today, I'm going to be covering the Pistons versus Knicks, which is a series I am super, super excited for. Personally, being a Pistons fan and also a Jalen Brunson fan at times, it's going to be so exciting to see both of these teams go at each other. There's history from past years between these teams, so many rivalry going on, and I think this is going to be one of the best series out of in this first round, out of maybe two or three. Like teams that other matchups that might be interesting to watch, like the Bucks versus Pacers. That's going to be a good matchup. Giannis is on his 2017-2018 Bron mission. And then you got Clippers versus Nuggets, which Jokic versus Kawhi. Like, I can't wait to see that. And then Warriors versus Rockets. And that one, that's why I said two or three. That one's kind of TBD because the Warriors obviously have to win against the Grizzlies tonight, and they very well may not. But before we kick it off, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, follow me on X at CalebCD and on TikTok at Peer Review Podcast to stay up to date with the channel and all things related to it. So, like I mentioned before, I'm going to be talking about the Pistons versus the Knicks, which this is the 3-seeded Knicks versus the Pistons. So, the Knicks will start off with home court advantage. But just for a little bit of context, the Pistons won 3 out of 4 of the regular season matchups against the Knicks this year, and I'm not gonna say that like the regular season is the tell all, but I think that just shows that it's kind of a pretty good indication that the Pistons, like, there's no like fear here. Like, they obviously can win the series. They obviously definitely believe the series going into it. And personally, I think they're very capable. I think it's gonna be a series that goes 6 or 7 games, and I think it can go either way. But just to start off, I want to talk about the two kind of star players in the series. And obviously, the Knicks have Jalen Brunson and Cat, but Jalen Brunson is their guy. So the point guard matchup, I'll say. Both teams have elite point guards. They play different styles, but not as different as you think. Like, Cade's obviously a lot bigger than Jalen Brunson, but they're both big guards who like to play. Well, I call Jalen Brunson a big guard because he's stronger, but they like to play in the mid range. They like to play out of the post. They like to play near the paint, but they also can break their guys down off the dribble. Like, just top tier point guards in the league. And as far as Jalen Brunson this season, he averaged 26.1 points, 7.4 assists per game. And the big thing with him this season, his assists are up a bit. He's averaging a career high, and I think this just comes down to having a much better offensive partner, like in Karl Anthony Towns, than guys like Julius Randle in the past, or like last postseason, he only had OG as like his second best guy. He just has more offensive firepower around him, so like his scoring took a dip, but his assists are up. So that is a direct correlation. And then the big thing with Brunson that you're going to see in the series, and if you don't watch them, he's so good at drawing fouls, playing in the mid range, and so deadly against drop coverage. Like, you can't play off of him because his pull up is so fast. He has the pull up three, the pull up midi, his little pound dribble. Like, he's a fun player for me to watch. And that's gonna be an issue kind of for the Pistons. Like, whoever is gonna get that lead assignment, staying out of foul trouble, because he is very foul grifty at times. Like, he likes to flop a lot. He likes to draw contact. And I don't blame him. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I never get mad at guys for exploiting those things. Like Trae Young, for example, one of my favorite players. He does it all the time. You use the rules to your advantage. But Jalen Brunson is also like the definition of a playoff riser, kind of similar to another guy that I root for, and Jimmy Butler. And Jimmy Butler is more of an extreme in this case, but like his numbers just drastically increase when they get to the postseason. So, for example, last postseason, he averaged 32.4 points with around 7.5 assists, which was about a 5 points per game point increase, and I think about 2 assists. But that's a big jump, and especially because his efficiency maintained the same. And you got to think last year his entire team was depleted, so he was out there not by himself, but for the sake of conversation, we could call it like he was by himself. He was doing it all, and Jalen Brunson is just great in like slowed down half court offense. He's super creative. He's crafty. He's a high IQ player, and he is so his footwork's insane. There's so many moves in his like repertoire. Just so much he can go to. So that kind of touches on that craftiness that I was just talking about. But on to Cade. He averaged similar numbers to Dylan Brunson. They both were at 26.1 points. Cade had 6.1 rebounds and then 9.1 assists. And he's just having career highs across the board. He's peaking as a professional, as an NBA player. And obviously this isn't his ceiling, but he's starting to hit that upper echelon point in his career. I think this season he's going to end up all NBA second team, at least like around at least second or third team. I think second. I think he should be in the MVP conversation this year. Towards the bottom, definitely, but 5 to 10 range, I don't think it's ridiculous to say. I saw the Kendrick Perkins had him at like fifth. Like I don't think that's. You could make an argument. You definitely could. He's leading this team, and he putting the Pistons on his back, and he's been doing a good job. I'm looking for him to kind of go crazy in this matchup. I just in the past, like I've watched all the games during the regular season of the Pistons versus the Knicks, and like they always had Mikhail on them, and I think that'll change maybe a little bit if Tibbs is not being stubborn. Like he might try OG on him, but Mikhail was his primary defender, and like Mikhail just doesn't bother him. He's not strong enough. Like Cade is always able to bump him or do his little push off. Like he can, it doesn't really affect him. For Cade, you have to put like bigger, stronger defenders on him, and the Knicks they have defenders for it, but they don't always deploy them. So that's something like to look out for. But yeah, just two top tier point guards. I can't wait to watch this series. But moving forward, one of the big points in this series that I think we're gonna have to watch out for, and it kind of leans towards the Knicks' favor, is that Karl-Anthony Towns versus the Pistons front court matchup, because all of the Pistons bigs kind of struggle trailing and like paying attention to shooters. They struggle getting out to shooters, especially stretch bigs, like in transition. Like, a big man's instinct is always to run towards the basket, and Cat is one of those bigs who no, he'll trail and light you up from the top of the key, and you see it all the time. Like when Duran's going against like Vucevic, or off the top of my head, like Porzingis, like guys like that always give him trouble. And same with Isaiah Stewart, but to a lesser degree. And Anthony Towns has like got off in every game this regular season in this matchup. So that's something we gotta watch out for. That like attention to detail. Like Cat is shooting 42% from three this season, and as one of the best stretch bigs in the league. And like I said, that's one of the kryptonites for Jalen Duran. Duran he doesn't do a good job getting out to them. He closes out late, like during pick and pops. He likes to like play on the ball, and that's just attention to detail stuff, in my opinion, and just kind of feel. And he's definitely gotten better, but if the Pistons are going to win this series, that attention to detail, like it has to be on point, because that stuff will burn you, and it's going to be a little bit tricky because Brunson likes to get downhill, and him and Cat play really well out of their 2-man game, so it's going to test our defenders. But I think we have the guys for it. I definitely do. And I think we're going to see Isaiah Stewart a lot more in this series, just because, like I said, he does a better job at guarding out in space. And he's not like top tier or anything like that, but he does a better job than Duran. And I also think like you got to watch out for foul trouble. Like it's good that we have a pretty solid, one of the best, I'd say, backup bigs in the league. And obviously he's not the defender or rebounder as Duran, and there's that lack of size, but he's still a big body. He still gets the job done. And that's kind of going to be the swing factor, in my opinion, as this series progresses. Now, one of the last big points that I think you need to look out for is like the bench contributions. Tibbs is kind of notorious and like known for overusing his starters. Like he'll play them 46, 44 minutes a game, and you had guys like Mikal Bridges coming out and saying like use our bench, like, and that's going to be something to look out for them. In the playoffs, he usually goes around 7 deep. The eighth guy might play, 6 to 10 minutes. So I'm kind of imagining that's probably the same way he's going to follow, like the same pattern he's going to follow. The three guys that he uses off the bench, there's going to be some variation. Mitchell Robinson, obviously, Miles McBride, and then that eighth guy I think will rotate depending on matchup between like Landry Shamet or Cameron Payne, or I really just think those two. Maybe Precious if like your big's getting into foul trouble, but I don't really see that happening a lot. But that's going to be the Knicks are going to have an over reliance on their starters, and that may be something that kind of wears them down as the playoffs progress, and it typically does. Like his players usually start to drop like flies as the playoffs progress, And this season they've been pretty healthy, so I'm hoping it stays that way because you don't like to see teams injured going into the playoffs, but something to look at. And then as far as those bench contributions on the Pistons side, they have the fourth best bench in the league according to like scoring. You got Malik Beasley just shooting lights out coming off the bench, like such an aggressive spot up shooter. He's getting a little better at creating his own shot. He runs action sometimes, but he's just a guy that you always have to be paying attention to. He just finished second and made 3-pointers, like second to Ant, with like the last regular season game and off the bench. So that's kind of, I don't want to say unprecedented because I'm not sure if that's been done before, but it's definitely not super common. So shout out to him. He's having a career year with us. I hope he stays with Detroit. He's kind of talked about how he wants to, but he's averaging 16 off the bench. Like I said, just an elite shooter. And he's not the only guy we got. Like we got young guys like Ron Holland. I don't think he'll play as much because he is not a great shooter. And he's just young. Like I think he'll get some burn, but not as much. But like I said, Isaiah Stewart, he's gonna get some touch. And I think the biggest bench factor though, because you know what like Isaiah Stewart's gonna give you, you know what Malik Beasley's gonna give you. I think it's Dennis Schroeder. I have always enjoyed like watching him, even when he was with the Lakers. I thought he was really good. Like both of his stints when he was with the Thunder. I loved watching him alongside like Shea and CP. And he just does a lot of like he's a competitor. He's good at getting downhill. He's good at finishing. He can play make. He's fast. He guards. Like he talks shit. Like all the things. I love him in 2K. Like that's my guy. And when the Pistons acquired him in the like midway point of the season, I was so happy because when Jaden Ivey went down, they kind of lost that like secondary shot creator, like another ball handler, and that's literally what he was brought in to do. And I don't think he has. I don't know if it's been like just him getting acclimated or getting more comfortable, but I don't think he's been as good as he can be. Like he's only averaging 10 with us, and he's shooting 37.8% from the field, and that's just low for him. That's low. I am anticipating him to kind of for us to see an uptick for him in the playoffs because he's normally just a much more efficient scorer. I kind of feel like with the Pistons, like he doesn't look to shoot as much as like he would in the past. And like I said, I think that's just him still getting acclimated. But if the Pistons are going to win this series, he has to be averaging closer to like 14, 15 points per game off the bench. And sometimes maybe he's starting at the two, depending on if we change the lineup. We've seen games this year where he's kind of started as our shooting guard alongside Cade. And it just gives Cade, because Cade is going to tire himself out. If he is the person responsible for creating every shot, scoring every point, like he can't, that's too much for one player to handle, in my opinion. So you need guys like Schroeder to kind of step up and fill in that secondary playmaking void, especially when Cade goes to the bench. Like Schroeder has to be aggressive, has to get buckets, but he also has to set guys up because like those are like our only two real ball handlers, and that's just the way it is. Now, as far as matchups, I'm gonna start with the Knicks. I think Jalen Brunson. So we know the lineups. Like the Knicks are gonna go Jalen Brunson, Mikhail, OG, Josh Hart at the 4, then Cat. I think Jalen Brunson is going to see a mixed combination of Asar, Cade, and then Dennis. Mainly Asar, I'm guessing, if things play out the way, because I don't think you want to put Cade on him and kind of tire him out, even though Cade is a great defender, and he's done it a lot during the regular season. I think he's going to have too much of an offensive load to just be worried about Brunson. So I'm predicting Asar, and then as for Mikhail, because he likes to run around, THJ, like I think Tim Hardaway is going to be on him for the majority. And I think Tim Hardaway isn't the best defender, but he's serviceable, and I think he can ramp it up when need be. And then as for OG, it's going to be Tobias Harris. That's like one of the only guys who's like big enough and agile enough to kind of match him, because you can't put like Tim Hardaway is not as strong, or if you go like Asar, like he's just a little smaller. Like he can definitely handle it, and he'll probably get some tick there. But I think Tobias is like the best matchup for him, and I imagine they put Cade on Josh Hart kind of as like to save his legs and also allow him to be kind of like a roamer off of Josh Hart. Like he can kind of double team when need be, make rotations, help out, and it just saves his legs a little more. Like, and especially like if they get a stop, he can get the rebound because he's not as keyed in on like worried about like, if he was on Jalen Brunson, for instance, like he can get the rebound, start the break, and it'll kind of lead to their transition offense, which is one of the Pistons' strong suits, and that's what I'm kind of looking towards. And then obviously the bigs, like Cat's going to be defended by Duran, these two. That's what's going to happen. Now, for the Pistons matchup, this is where I think it gets a little tricky for the Knicks because, like I said earlier in the video, Mikhail is usually who starts on Cade, and he did all throughout the regular season. And I'm not sure if OG will get some reps there. Tibbs has been stubborn at times, so I'm not sure exactly if he's going to try and play around with those matchups. But I imagine Mikhail is going to be his primary defender. And then as you move down the list, like Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm probably going to get, like, I want to guess Josh Hart or maybe a Brunson is what I'm thinking. But like that's a size mismatch. Like that's what Brunson's the hard part for the Knicks because kind of where are you going to place him? Because if you put him on a SAR, like you don't have to account for him as much, but that's such an athletic mismatch. And Cade is just going to bring Asar into the pick and roll every single time, and he's going to bring Brunson in, and they're going to have to figure it out. But I'm going to guess Brunson probably goes on Asar and is more of just like I said, like that's where they're going to hide him because you don't have to account for him as much on offense besides like cutting and if he has the ball and they're running action for him. But if they're running action for him, like the Knicks want that. Like you want the ball out of Cade's hands. So that's going to be something to look at there. And then as for Tobias, I think you'll see OG on him. I think you'll see Josh Hart. And then for Durant, it's going to be simple with Cat, Mitchell, maybe Precious if he gets some ticks. But like I said, I think this series is going to go 6 or 7. And I kind of want to paint the picture. So if the Knicks were to win this series, they're going to lean on a couple of key things. For starters, their experience. Like obviously, the Knicks have had multiple deep playoff runs. Jalen Brunson has been awesome, like in the playoffs since his days back in Dallas. Like he's a playoff riser, like I mentioned, and they just have this experience that's kind of going to take them further than the Pistons. Like most of these guys haven't been there before. Like Tim Hardaway Jr. has, Tobias Harris has, Dennis Schroeder has, but a lot of those guys, this is their first, and a lot of their key players, this is their first playoff run. Younger players struggle in the playoffs, so that's going to be up for debate. We're going to have to watch and see. I think the next thing is their home court advantage. I think this has been kind of downplayed when people have talked about this series because I don't think people quite understand how hard it is to go into Madison Square Garden and play in the playoffs, and let alone it being your first playoff run ever, first time in the playoffs. Like the Garden is one of the worst and most intense atmospheres just because it's like one of the biggest markets. Like it's New York. Like that's going to be an adjustment for guys, and I think that's going to help kind of set the tone early, like starting there. I think for the Knicks to win, I think they eventually have to put OG on Cade and hope that he is like able to make him be less efficient and kind of minimize him a bit. I don't think you can shut him out of the series, but that's gonna have to be his matchup. Cat, like I said, that stretch big point, him lighting us up from the 3-point line, being a trailer, getting into his spots. Like I said, we usually struggle with stretch big, so that's something we got to watch out for. They have to force Pistons turnovers because that's something we tend to struggle with. Cade especially, like he's pretty prone to turnovers. He's averaging like 4.5 this year. If he's turning the ball over and you're getting out in transition, and that is kind of going to be the Knicks' key to success. And then the biggest thing is shooting the three ball well. Both teams are towards the bottom of the league in defending the three, but the Knicks are one of the better 3-point shooting teams in the league. So they don't guard the three, but they make them too. So like it kind of balances out. But that's what's gonna have to happen. If the Knicks were to win, and Knicks winning, if they win the series, I could see it going. I predict the series going 6 or 7. But if they win, it'd probably be in about 6. Maybe if things go all right for them, maybe 5. But that's kind of where I see that taking place. And then for the Pistons and kind of their point of view, I think for them to win the series, they have to steal game 1 or 2 at home, like away on the road. Like those first 2 games against them, they have to come out and take those and kind of set the series. Like if they come out and win game 1, lose game 2 and win 3 and 4 or some type of situation like that, but they have to win 1 or 2 of the first 2 games and win this series, in my opinion. And I just think it would have to be they play on that like psychological matchup. Like they're 3-1 against them in the regular season, so they won't be as startled by them. I think Cade has to outplay Brunson, but like heavily. Like I think Cade needs to be averaging somewhere between like 29 to like anywhere from like 29 to like 34 points in this series, and he has to be around like 8 assists, but he has to be able to create against their defenders. Like he has to be able to get to that close midi shot that he likes, get to those push shots, play around the rim. And like I said, he has to minimize the turnovers because that's been sort of a struggle for him. And as the league creator, like the defense is going to be a lot more keyed in on you, and it's going to more than likely be an adjustment period for him. But great experience overall. And then Schroeder, like I mentioned, he has to be around 15 points. He has to contribute as a scorer, as a playmaker. He has to get back to his level, and we have to score in transition. The Pistons are the second best transition team in the league behind Denver, so that's something they're just going to have to bank on. Now, as for my prediction, being a Detroit fan, being a Detroit native, I have the Pistons winning this series in 6. I think they have to steal one at home, one in the Garden, excuse me. And they have to win both in Detroit, in my opinion, coming back home. Because you kind of want the Knicks on the ropes. I don't trust the Knicks defense against Cade from what I've seen in the regular season. Obviously, they'll turn it up a bit. But my heart is telling me Detroit. I think Cade can lead this team. I think he has top 5 player potential in the future. I think Cade is just going to be a transcendent player for the city. And I think this run, win or lose, is going to be great experience for the younger guys. And it'll kind of show who's ready for the moment versus who kind of needs more work. Like if Ron Holland gets tick and he's hooping and, he shooting, I don't know, like he's in the low 20s shooting threes. But let's say he coming to the postseason, he's shooting 35%. That's exciting because you see when things get tough, like he elevates. You're going to be looking for outliers like that. And the one thing that's kind of sad for Pistons fans, I would have loved to see Jaden Ivey make an appearance in this series. And I'm not sure if he'd be back in time. I don't think if he comes back, they're going to play him maybe off the bench a little bit, but I don't think they really work him in because he's been out for so long. But having him as like another ball handler, shot creator, scorer, downhill threat, like he can defend, like he's definitely will be missed, and he has been missed this season. But yeah, that's what I got. I got the Pistons in 6, and I'm gonna stand on that. And hopefully, my wish comes to fruition. I'm going to Game 4 with my boy Isaiah, so we got some pretty good seats for that. I'm excited to see the matchup takes place. But that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning into the Peer Review Podcast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on this matchup. Will K be the best player in the series? Will the Knicks' experience take them over the edge? How many games will it go? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. This is the Peer Review, signing off.